Building on her tumultuous history, Paris Jackson has always struggled to define herself beyond her father's shadow. Despite her efforts to pursue her own path as an artist and activist, her life has been marked by intense media attention and the high expectations that come with being part of a famous family, which often caused her to feel overwhelmed and misunderstood. Recently, she revealed something that many feared might be true, but hoped was not a personal struggle that could threaten her well-being and happiness. This confession has surprised fans and critics alike, forcing many to reconsider their perceptions of her strength and resilience. It exposes a vulnerability she had kept hidden, sparking a wave of concern and support from those who care about her. Her words have opened a window into her inner world, highlighting the ongoing challenges she faces with mental health and self-acceptance. As her story unfolds, it becomes clear that her journey is far from over, and that her courage to share this truth may serve as a turning point for her future. Her openness could inspire others who fight similar battles, and her honesty may finally help lift some of the burdens she has carried silently for so long. Additionally, Paris Jackson is one of Michael Jackson's children who grew up in a unique environment. As the only daughter of Michael and Debbie Rowe, she was born into a family full of fame and musical history. After her parents' divorce, Paris was mainly raised by her father, who dedicated much of his life to her and her brothers. She spent much of her childhood at Neverland Ranch, a place famous for its amusement parks and privacy, which made her childhood very different from most children. Despite the glamorous life she was born into, Paris has spoken openly about her struggles with mental health, including her battles with depression and identity. She has faced many challenges growing up in the spotlight, especially after her father's death when she was only 15. Still, she has shown strength and resilience, sharing her experiences with her fans and speaking out about issues related to mental health. Paris has also become known for her work in modeling and acting, and she often uses her platform to support causes close to her heart. Her life has been shaped by her unusual upbringing tied closely to her father's legacy, which continues to influence her path. As she navigates her own destiny, she carries the history of her family and the memories of her childhood at Neverland. Because Paris Jackson grew up at Neverland Ranch, her childhood was unlike that of most children. Instead of a normal house in a neighborhood, she and her brothers lived on a large estate that looked like a fantasy land. Neverland had amusement park rides, a petting zoo, a private theater, and beautiful gardens. These features made the ranch seem like a never-ending playground where imagination could run wild. Still, despite the fun extras, Michael Jackson wanted his children to have discipline and structure. They were homeschooled by private teachers, making sure their lessons always came first before they could go play. This helped keep a balance between learning and fun. Michael was very careful to protect his children from the intense media attention that surrounded him. When they went outside Neverland in public, they were often masked or covered to hide their identities from paparazzi and fans. Many people wondered why he did this, but Paris later said that her father's main goal was to keep them safe from the chaos of fame. She now admires him for trying to shield her and her siblings from the harsh realities of being part of the Jackson family. Despite living amidst luxury, her childhood was carefully managed, blending entertainment, education, and protection to create a life that, while extraordinary, was also secure. From a young age, Paris Jackson's appearance was influenced heavily by her father, Michael Jackson, who had a strong passion for fashion. He believed that how his children dressed was an important part of their public image, and he carefully selected their outfits to ensure they looked stylish and coordinated. The boys often wore sharp suits and tailored jackets that made them look polished and sophisticated, while Paris was dressed in elegant dresses that resembled the outfits of a young princess. Although Michael wanted them to maintain a refined and polished look, he also made sure they wore their signature mask whenever they appeared in public, giving them a sense of mystery and protection. As Paris grew older, she started to develop her own sense of style, moving away from the neat, controlled look she was used to. She began to experiment with fashion and adopted a more edgy and bohemian style, which reflected her desire to express her individuality. Her new style included tattoos, piercings, and vintage rock and roll clothing, which paid tribute to her father's rebellious spirit. This unique approach to fashion impressed many and helped Paris gain recognition in the fashion industry. She began making appearances at high-profile fashion events and worked with major brands, showing her ability to combine her personal style with professional work. For Paris, fashion became more than just clothing. It became a way to express herself freely and show the world who she is. It allowed her to move beyond her father's legendary legacy and create her own identity. This transformation in her style shows her journey from being a child dressed in carefully chosen outfits to an independent young woman making her own mark in the world of fashion. Her willingness to be bold and different has made her a notable figure in the fashion scene, and she continues to use her personal style as a powerful form of self-expression. Since the story of Blanket Jackson remains one of the most intriguing parts of the Jackson family history, many people are curious about his life and the reasons behind his privacy. Born in 2002 through surrogacy, Blanket's real name has never been publicly revealed, which adds to his mysterious persona. Unlike his older sister Paris and brother Prince, Blanket grew up largely out of the public eye during his early years. His nickname, Blanket, came from his father Michael Jackson's habit of covering him with a blanket whenever they appeared in public, a way to protect him from the intense paparazzi attention. Michael's effort to keep his children safe often involved such measures, but this also led to intense media speculation and criticism about his parenting methods. One of the most controversial moments involving Blanket came in 2022, when Michael Jackson was seen dangling him over a balcony in Berlin while greeting fans. This incident sparked outrage because many believed it was dangerous, although Michael later admitted it was a mistake made in the heat of the moment. Despite the controversy, Blanket remained a very private person. While Paris and Prince have participated to some extent in public life and social media, Blanket has always stayed away from the spotlight. It was in 2015 that he chose to change his name to BG Jackson, an effort to create his own identity apart from the nickname that marked his childhood. Today, he focuses much more on his education and personal life, intentionally avoiding media attention and public scrutiny. To this day, little is known about his personal relationships or future plans because he prefers to keep his life private and far from the media's glow. Although Paris Jackson is known for her modeling, acting, and music, her connection to her father's admiration for Peter Pan offers important insight into her background. Michael Jackson's fascination with Peter Pan was more than just liking a story. It was a core part of who he was. He often talked about feeling a deep bond with the character because he saw himself as someone who, despite growing older, wanted to hold on to the innocence and wonder of childhood. This feeling was so strong that he created Neverland Ranch, a special place designed to bring that magical world to life. The ranch was not just a home, but a fantasy land with amusement rides, a zoo, a train, and beautiful gardens. All these features aimed to keep childhood joy alive, giving Michael and his children a safe space to play and pretend. The ranch reflected his desire to relive the childhood he never fully experienced, as his early years were filled with the pressures of fame and demanding performances. Paris grew up immersed in this magical environment, often playing out scenes from the story with her siblings. The idea of eternal youth was more than a game for her family. It was a way to protect and preserve innocence in a world that was often harsh and judgmental. As Paris and her brothers got older, they learned that no matter how much their father wanted to keep them in a fairy tale world, the outside world would always present challenges. They started to see that preserving childhood was a fragile thing, and facing reality was unavoidable, even in a world built on magic. Since her childhood, Paris Jackson has been deeply affected by the media's relentless attention and the paparazzi's invasive tactics. Growing up as the daughter of Michael Jackson, she was exposed to a world where public figures are constantly watched and scrutinized. Her father, Michael Jackson, was well aware of how harsh the media could be, having spent his entire life under its magnifying glass. He experienced firsthand how the press could distort or sometimes destroy a person's reputation through relentless coverage and false rumors. To shield his children from this invasive scrutiny, Michael Jackson took significant measures. He understood that if their identities were known, paparazzi would pursue them relentlessly, leading to sleepless nights and invasions of privacy. Therefore, he adopted a protective approach. His children often wore masks, scarves, or blankets to hide their faces whenever they appeared in public. Although many people criticized this method, questioning its impact on the children's emotional health, Paris and her siblings later appreciated their father's decisions. They understood that these measures helped them enjoy a childhood that, to some extent, was free from the constant pressures and invasions of privacy that fame entails. Over time, Paris and her brothers learned to accept these protective strategies as part of their lives and became accustomed to the intense attention surrounding them. They developed a certain resilience because of the early lessons in privacy and discretion. However, as Paris grew older and entered the wider public space on her own terms, she faced the media's glare with a new perspective. The experience of her childhood, with its protective barriers, helped her develop mental strength to handle the scrutiny. She learned to maintain her identity amid the chaos, keeping her sense of self intact despite the constant press attention. The media scrutiny never entirely disappeared, but Paris's ability to navigate the complex world of fame was shaped by the lessons she learned from her father's protective measures and her own resilience. Since early childhood, Paris Jackson and her brothers were homeschooled by their father, Michael Jackson, who wanted to protect them from outside influences and ensure they received a controlled, nurturing education. This approach meant that, while they learned in a safe environment, their social interactions were somewhat limited compared to children who went to regular schools. They did not have large groups of classmates or participate in many typical school activities. Instead, Michael arranged for them to meet and befriend the children of his close friends and fellow industry professionals. This method allowed Paris and her siblings to develop friendships with children whose families understood the pressures of living in the public eye. One of these friendships was with Bella and Gigi Hadid, who later became famous supermodels. These relationships introduced Paris to fashion and modeling at an early age, helping her find ways to express herself beyond her father's legacy. As she grew older, especially into her teenage years, Paris sought to experience a more traditional form of education. She eventually attended a private school, which gave her the chance to meet students from different backgrounds and expand her social circle. This transition was very important for her to develop her own identity outside the world her father created. It helped her learn to interact more freely, build new friendships, and begin finding her own path in life, shaped by her personal experiences and new connections. Despite her fame and the attention that often surrounds her, Paris Jackson has always valued the importance of family and the special bond she shares with her loved ones. Growing up as the daughter of Michael Jackson, she learned early on that love and connection are more important than any amount of fame. Her father, despite being one of the most famous people in the world, made it clear that family came first. He dedicated time to his children, creating a strong sense of closeness among Paris, her brother Prince, and her brother Blanket. He showed his love through simple but meaningful activities like reading stories at bedtime, watching movies, or spending peaceful moments together in Neverland. These times helped forge a nurturing environment where the children felt safe and truly loved. Michael was not only a provider, but an active father who prioritized his children's happiness. His relationship with his mother Catherine Jackson was also very important to him, and Paris grew up seeing a close bond between her father and extended family. This strong family environment helped Paris feel a deep sense of belonging, even under the constant gaze of the media. The memories of her father's warmth, affection, and dedication stay with her as some of her most treasured moments. She has often spoken about how he loved her deeply and worked hard to give her a childhood filled with love, care, and stability. Even after Michael Jackson's death, the strong family connections he fostered have remained. Paris continues to nurture her relationships with her siblings and other family members, keeping the family bond alive. As she grows older, she carries her father's lessons with her, values like love, resilience, and the power of family ties. The love and lessons her father left behind continue to guide her through her challenges and successes, reminding her of the importance of family and the unbreakable bond they share. Paris's life reflects the enduring legacy of her father's devotion to family and the time they spent together. Since the death of Michael Jackson on June 25, 2009, the world has been affected in many ways. His passing at the age of 50 shocked millions, as people everywhere mourned the loss of a man who had changed music and popular culture forever. For his children, particularly Paris Jackson, the loss was even more personal and painful. Paris, at just 11 years old when her father died, felt the absence deeply. She shared a special bond with Michael, who was not only her father, but also a role model and source of love and support. His death was declared a homicide caused by an overdose of propofol and benzodiazepines, with Dr. Conrad Murray, his doctor, at the center of controversy. Rumors and questions about Michael's health and medication use had circulated before, but his sudden death brought these issues into sharp focus. As news of his passing spread, media outlets scrutinized every detail of his final days, while Paris and her siblings faced overwhelming grief in the public eye. Their grandmother, Catherine Jackson, stepped in to become their legal guardian, offering some stability amid chaos. Even with that support, Paris struggled to cope with her father's absence, feeling lost while trying to understand her own identity and come to terms with her father's legacy. The effects of Michael Jackson's death continued to influence Paris and her family, shaping her life and personal journey. After Michael Jackson's death, the responsibility of caring for his children largely fell on the Jackson family. Katherine Jackson, Michael's mother, stepped into the role of the primary caregiver. At 79 years old, she took on this enormous task with grace and determination, providing a loving and stable environment for Paris and her brothers. Raising 3 children without their father was not easy, and Katherine received help from other family members, including Michael's nephew T.J. Jackson, who was very active in their day-to-day lives. Despite their efforts, the absence of Michael was deeply felt, and his children often missed the guidance and protection that only he could provide. They had grown up with him as their protector, their hero, and the one constant in their lives. Unlike most children, they had limited contact with their biological mothers. Debbie Rowe, Paris and Prince's mother, had given up her custody rights, and Blankett's biological mother remained a mystery. This lack of maternal presence made losing their father even harder to accept. Paris especially felt the weight of this loss. She found comfort in her close bond with her brothers, but she also admitted feeling lonely and missing the connection she once had with her father. As she grew older, these feelings continued, and she struggled to find her own identity while carrying the heavy legacy of being Michael Jackson's daughter. Her emotional journey was marked by moments of pain, hope, and the ongoing quest for understanding and connection. After Michael Jackson's death, the family decided to send Paris Jackson and her brothers to a private school in Calabasas, California. This was a big change for Paris because she had always been homeschooled by her father, who wanted to keep her and her siblings protected from the public eye. Michael believed that shielding his children from the outside world was the best way to keep them safe and focused on their education. However, her Aunt LaToya Jackson felt it was important for Paris to experience life outside their family's protective bubble. She encouraged the move to a regular school so Paris could learn social skills and develop her independence. For Paris, this was a new and challenging experience. Suddenly, she was among classmates, making friends, and trying to find her place in a world that was very different from the quiet life at Neverland Ranch. At first, it was difficult for her to adjust to the rules and structure of a traditional school environment. She sometimes felt like an outsider, partly because of her unique upbringing and the fame that followed her family. Nevertheless, going to school gave Paris the opportunity to discover new interests and talents. She started exploring acting and music, passions that she would later pursue in her career. During this time, she also began forming friendships outside of her family, helping her see herself as her own person, rather than just as Michael Jackson's daughter. These experiences shaped her life and helped her grow into someone who could stand on her own and face the world with more confidence. Immediately after Michael Jackson's death in 2009, his family faced a time of grief, but also a chance to honor his extraordinary contributions to music. In 2010, the Recording Academy awarded Michael Jackson a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, acknowledging his impact on the world of music and his status as one of the greatest entertainers of all time. This award was given posthumously, making it a bittersweet moment for his family, especially for his children, Paris and Prince, who were young at the time. When the award was announced, many felt the emotion in the room, knowing they were celebrating Michael's legacy while still mourning his loss. Standing on stage before a large audience, Paris Jackson, who was only 12 years old, stepped up to accept the award with her brother Prince by her side. Together, they delivered an emotional speech that touched everyone in the crowd. Paris, speaking with a sincerity that belied her young age, shared how much her father meant to her and how proud she was to honor his memory. This moment marked a turning point for Paris, as she showed bravery by stepping into the spotlight for the first time as herself. Not just as a child hiding behind masks or costumes. She carried herself with the same poise and dignity that her father was known for, and this event opened the door for her future public life. Over the years, Paris has continued to remember her father through her actions and words. She has used her voice to share stories about Michael, defend his reputation from critics, and support causes she cares about. Although losing her father was a profound loss, the Grammy tribute served as a reminder that Michael Jackson's influence remained strong, and that his children, especially Paris, would keep his legacy alive for generations to come. Since he chose a different path from his famous father, Michael Jackson, Prince Jackson has made his mark in the entertainment world in a way that highlights his talents behind the scenes. Unlike Michael, who was born to perform on stage and captivate audiences with music, and dance, Prince discovered early that he was more interested in the process of creating and producing. In 2013, he took his first major step into entertainment by working as an on-air correspondent for Entertainment Tonight. This role gave him the chance to interview popular celebrities, learn about the industry firsthand, and show his understanding of entertainment business matters. Although he tried acting in some small roles, he soon realized that his true passion was directing, producing, and writing scripts. To deepen his knowledge, Prince went on to study business at Loyola Marymount University, where he learned about managing creative projects and understanding how the industry operates from a production side. Later, he started his own company called King's Son Productions, which focuses on making music videos and digital content. This effort reflects his interest in shaping visual stories and creative projects rather than performing on stage. Although he stays connected to his father's legacy, Prince Jackson has created his own space in entertainment by emphasizing storytelling, filmmaking, and visual art. His work reveals a deep love for cinematography and visual media, showing that success in entertainment can come from behind the camera as well as in front of it. As he continues to develop his career, Prince's contributions demonstrate that he values creativity, innovation, and the art of storytelling, proving that influence and distinction can be achieved in many ways within the entertainment industry. Since her childhood, Paris Jackson's life has been marked by both privilege and deep personal struggles that shaped who she is today. Growing up in the spotlight as the daughter of the legendary Michael Jackson, she was exposed to fame from a very young age, but behind the scenes, her experience was far from glamorous. When she was just 11 years old, she lost her father, a tragedy that left a lasting emotional impact on her. This loss created a profound wound that she carried with her as she faced the world. In addition to her grief, she had to deal with intense media attention that often invaded her privacy and added to her emotional burden. Paris has openly shared her journey with mental health issues, revealing that she faced anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder. These challenges were directly linked to her father's death and the powerful pressures of living in the public eye. Despite these hardships, she did not allow her struggles to define her. Instead, she chose to fight back and turn her pain into a force for good. She became an outspoken advocate for mental health awareness, encouraging others to seek help and to remove the stigma surrounding mental illness. Paris has spoken openly about her own experiences with self-harm and suicidal thoughts, emphasizing the importance of self-care, therapy, and building emotional strength. Beyond her mental health advocacy, she has used her influence to support broader causes such as LGBTQ rights, environmental conservation, and humanitarian work. She became an ambassador for the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation, continuing her family's legacy of activism and philanthropy. Through her involvement with various charities and causes, Paris Jackson has shown that she is not just the daughter of a famous musician, but a dedicated activist committed to making a positive impact in the world. Her story is one of resilience, compassion, and determination to help others find hope even in the darkest times. Since a young age, Paris Jackson showed a strong artistic spirit that reflected her father Michael Jackson's creative influence. Although she did not pursue the same style of music as her father, she eventually found her own musical path in indie folk and alternative music. In 2018, she formed a musical duo called the Soundflowers with her then-boyfriend Gabriel Glynn. Together, they performed raw, acoustic-driven songs filled with deeply personal lyrics. Their music had a stripped-down and emotional quality, giving fans a window into Paris' innermost thoughts and life experiences. As she grew as an artist, Paris decided to go solo and signed a record deal with Republic Records. In 2020, she released her debut album called Wilted. The album combined folk, alternative, and soft rock sounds, and critics praised it for its honesty and vulnerability. It also reached the top of the alternative music charts, showing how well her music was received. Unlike her father's pop style, Paris's music focused on rawness and self-exploration, touching on themes such as love, loss, and self-discovery. Alongside her music, she became a popular model, working with well-known brands like Chanel, Calvin Klein, and Dior. She appeared on the covers of major magazines such as Rolling Stone and Vogue. Her striking looks, along with her fearless attitude toward style, made her a natural in the fashion world. Whether walking on runways or starring in high-profile campaigns, Paris used modeling as another way to show her unique personality and individuality outside of her father's fame. Since she was young, Paris Jackson has used her body as a way to express her feelings and memories through tattoos. She has more than 80 tattoos, each one holding special meaning for her. Some tattoos are dedicated to people she loved or lost, and others are reminders of her personal journey through difficulties, healing, and discovering who she truly is. Among her tattoos, the ones honoring her father, Michael Jackson, are some of the most meaningful. One striking tattoo depicts her father's eyes and his signature hairstyle, symbolizing the deep influence he has had on her life. This tattoo is a reminder of the connection she shares with him, even after his passing. She also has the words "Queen of My Heart" tattooed in Michael's handwriting, which shows how much he cared for her, and the special place she held in his heart. Each tattoo is a permanent piece of her story, telling about love, loss, and strength. Besides her tattoos, Paris has also worked to keep Michael Jackson's legacy alive. Even though she has chosen her own way in music, she still shares her father's love for art and creativity. She speaks out against false stories and unfair accusations that have tried to tarnish her father's name, showing her support and respect. For Paris, keeping her father's memory alive isn't about copying him exactly, but about living by the values he passed to her, being real, kind, and free to create. Her tattoos and her actions reflect her ongoing connection to her father and her journey of healing and self-discovery. Building on her tumultuous history, Paris Jackson has always struggled to define herself beyond her father's shadow. Despite her efforts to pursue her own path as an artist and activist, her life has been marked by intense media attention and the high expectations that come with being part of a famous family, which often cause her to feel overwhelmed and misunderstood. Recently, she revealed something that many feared might be true, but hoped was not a personal struggle that could threaten her well-being and happiness. This confession has surprised fans and critics alike, forcing many to reconsider their perceptions of her strength and resilience. It exposes a vulnerability she had kept hidden, sparking a wave of concern and support from those who care about her. Her words have opened a window into her inner world, highlighting the ongoing challenges she faces with mental health and self-acceptance. As her story unfolds, it becomes clear that her journey is far from over, and that her courage to share this truth may serve as a turning point for her future. Her openness could inspire others who fight similar battles, and her honesty may finally help lift some of the burdens she has carried silently for so long. Ultimately, Paris Jackson's willingness to speak out demonstrates a profound strength and a desire to heal. Remind us all that everyone's struggles are valid and worthy of understanding.